invitation.
Shiel water the track is to the west, by Ailort and by Moor to the sea. The cool cresses I'm thinking of a plot, and bracken for a wink on mother knee. Sure by Tummel and Loch Rannoch and Loch Aber I will go, by heather tracks we heaven in their wilds. If it's thinking in your inner head, braggarts in the step, you'll never smelt the tangle the isles. It's the blue islands are pulling me away, their laughter puts the leap upon the lame. The blue islands from the Skerries to the Lews, where heather honey taste upon each name. Sure by Tummel and Loch Rannoch and Loch Aber I will go, by heather tracks we heaven in their wilds. If it's thinking in your inner head, braggarts in the step, you've never smelt the tangle the isles.
Aye, the road to the Isles, and what a road. A road of song, romance and beauty, the very foundation, as it were, of the character of the Highlander. Tough, craggy, but in essence kindly. Let us start our pilgrimage from Pitlochery, the gateway to the western Highlands, where the river Tummel cascades down the falls to the southwest of the town. Not, let it be said, in quite the way that it used to, for this is the heart of Scotland's greatest hydroelectric undertaking, the Tummel Garry scheme. The charm of the lochs and rivers has been altered. Indeed, Loch Skye is man-made, and Loch Tummel itself has been doubled in length since the words of the song were written. Powerstations line the route, mercifully blending into the scenery and not marring that first breathless glimpse of the road, Queen's View, with Shiel brooding in the distance. Aye. Sure by Tummel and Loch Rannoch and Loch Aber I will go, by heather tracks we heaven in their wilds. If it's thinking in your inner head, braggarts in my step, a step I weigh my crummock to the Isles. At the end of Loch Tummel, the old bridge, built by General Wade's men as part of his great system of military roads to make it easier to subdue the clans, is now joined by another, built over 200 years later to carry modern traffic to the hydroelectric scheme. And so on to Loch Rannoch, dominated by Shiel, which from this aspect gives the perfect cone shape of Fujiyama. Shiel appears to change shape as the road proceeds to the great bleak moor of Rannoch. The moor blocks the way, and at Rannoch station, the road, from the motorist's point of view, comes to an end in a burst of desolation. Rannoch Moor stretches to the Grampians, a climber's paradise where the quiet beauties of Loch Tulla are but a prelude to the thunder of Glencoe. But now the mountains have their say, and the ascent to the Black Mount and the other end of the moor is awe-inspiring. And so down to Glencoe, a name which Scotsmen will always remember, It wasn't so much the number of MacDonald slain, it was the manner of the slaying which has burnt the name Glencoe on every Highlander's heart. For the Campbells were the guests of the MacDonalds, and in their houses when the massacre took place. It broke all the traditions of Highland hospitality. Guests murdered their hosts in bed, and the gloom of Glencoe, with its tiny village beneath, by the placid waters of Loch Lieven, are a living monument to a black day in Scottish history. And so to busy little Fort William, centre of the Loch Aber district, certain charts call the upper reaches of Loch Linnhe Loch Aber, which may be the clue to the reason why all the other places named in the song are waterways, whereas by modern usage, Loch Aber is not. Fort William is the site of one of a chain of forts built by the English during the constant strife with the clans. And as we go further northwest, we find Scottish music and Scottish culture more and more reverenced. It's by Shiel water the track is to the west, by Ailort and by Moor to the sea. The cool cresses I'm thinking of at Pluck, and bracken for a wink on mother knee. Shiel water, where in 1745 a young man, armed not with guns and weapons, but only with hope and a belief in the steadfastness of the clans, stepped ashore and raised his standard. Today, a monument marks the spot where bonny Prince Charlie stood and looked inland and waited, very much alone. Then suddenly he heard the distant sound of the pipes, and one by one the clans gathered, marching down the glen to join him. This place has an atmosphere such as only the Highlands can give, the scene of perhaps the last really romantic phase of British history. And so the road unfolds with scenes of beauty, grandeur and loveliness. Here is Loch Ailort. The story goes that after the 45, the Scots were, by decree, prevented from erecting memorials to their fallen. So instead, they planted trees on the little islands of the Lochs. Now we have reached Arisaig with its lovely house on the little beach below, where Prince Charles is said to have started his last journey from his native land after his long wait in the cave. And so, by Moor to the sea, the gleaming white sands of Moor spread before the traveller like a glittering carpet, and nearby are the famous falls. The modern road ends at the busy fishing port of Mallaig, where one must set sail for the islands, for Skye. But let us spare a moment to the bustle and activity of this village at the end of the road, where the rich haul is brought in by men who have spent a lifetime fighting the sea in their little boats. The Cuillins that are puttin' love on me. Aye, aye, and there they are, the mystic mountains in a mystic isle. But the steamer awaits. The real road to the isles is about to begin. Over the sea to Skye. great rugged Cuillins grow more impressive as we steam past. And finally into the inlet on which Portree, principal town of Skye, stands. Here in Portree you will be asked if you have the Gaelic, to which my reply would be, ja and yeo. For the Gaelic traditions and music are kept alive in the Western Isles. Gaelic songs are sung as the age-old craft of tweed making is practiced. Having the Gaelic is almost a necessity for living in Skye. It blends so perfectly on the one hand with the simplicity of life, and on the other with the mysterious, awe-inspiring Cuillins, where climbers risk death to reach hypnotic summits. It blends so perfectly with the fairy atmosphere of Dunvegan Castle, the oldest inhabited castle in Scotland, where Flora, Mrs. MacLeod of MacLeod lives, and where the clan gathers from all over the world during Skye Week. Many are the traditions and mysteries of Dunvegan Castle, and indeed of the whole of Skye. Many old customs survive in Scotland, like the Portree or mouth music. Portree is a Hebridean tradition. In the old days when a ceilidh or a musical evening was held and no instrument was available, the dancing was to mouth music, Gaelic words giving the music and rhythm for the dance. But there is one last pilgrimage we must make over the island's appalling roads. A pilgrimage to the end of the bonny Prince Charlie saga, the grave of the girl who risked her life to get her prince to safety. Perhaps this, of all places, is where we should finish our road to the Isles. For it is where Prince Charles finished, and Flora MacDonald finished, and to thousands of Scotsmen, it is where they too would like to finish, on a Skye hillside looking over towards the outer islands, the blue islands of the Hebrides.
Take I away my cromach to the road. The far Cuillins are putting love on me. A step I with the sunlight for my load. Sure by Tunnel and Loch Rannoch and Loch but I will go by heather tracks we have it in their wilds. If it's thinking in your inner head, braggarts in my step, you've never smelt the tangle o' the Isles. It's by Shiel water the track is to the west, by Ailort and by Moor to the sea. The cool cresses I'm thinking of a blood, and bracken for a wink on mother knee. Sure by Tummel and Loch Rannoch and Loch but I will go by heather tracks we have in their wilds. If it's thinking in your inner in my step. You'll never smelt the tangle o' the Isles. It's the blue islands are pulling me away. Their laughter pulls the leaf upon the lane. The blue islands from the Skerries to the Lews, we had a honey taste upon each name. Sure by Tummel and the